It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calagione. It's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our 24 hours, 7-day-a-week television channel. That's right. You could check it out on all of the major streaming devices. Just go to Ginico USA. That's GINIKO USA.com and find out all the platforms we're on, as well as signing up for your free, yes, I said free account. Check out all the shows. We've been doing this show for 15 years, but this channel features all of the other specials that we've done. Fights I've called, other specials like our Billy C's Boxing Revisited, our Blast from the Past, all of this stuff, some things you've probably never seen, roundtable discussions, live video from all over the place. So make sure you check it out, GinicoUSA.com, or just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on one of the scrolling banners. You can't miss it. It's huge. It's got me frowning. Click that one. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux From Bondage to the Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now. While you're watching or listening to this very show, just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. All right, today's show, we're going to have Alex Papali join us a little bit later, as well as Dax Kahn. We got a bunch of stuff scheduled. Here's the thing. We are going to talk about the fights from the past weekend, like we always do, giving you our thoughts on the bigger fights. But we're also going to talk a lot about the heavyweight division, and specifically the top three heavyweights in the division, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. We were hoping to see a rematch between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. We already know that Anthony Joshua was fighting that big fat pig bum, Jerrell Baby Miller. But my question today is, will those three ever fight each other? Will they put the political part of the sport aside, because they can't deny the amount of money that they can make for fighting any mixture of the three, fighting either one of themselves? That didn't sound right. Either one of each other's. Yeah. And that would certainly help. But first, let's kick off the show with some fights that took place over this weekend. First and foremost, in my opinion, the best fight and the most substantial in the super middleweight division, Chris Eubank Jr. scored a 12-round unanimous decision over James DeGale. Eubank improves to 28-2 with 21 knockouts. DeGale, he drops to 25 wins, 3 losses, and a draw, with 15 of his wins coming by knockout. The vacant IBO title was on was vacant, and it was on the line for this fight that took place at the O2 Arena. The way the judges scored it: 114-112, 115-112, 117-109, all in favor of Chris Eubank. I thought that this fight was nowhere near as close as 114-112. If you want to go to 115-112, that's fine. You got to keep in mind Eubank was deducted a point for slamming DeGale to the canvas in the 7th round. But I think Eubank won the fight. I don't think there was anything to even come close to arguing. I will say this about Chris Eubank. This was a fighter that I did not think was that polished. but he looked really good last night. I think if he learns to use his jab more, he finally learned how to throw his right hand correctly. He did mix it up with some jabs and some hooks with his left. But I think if this guy goes back to the gym, especially after a win like this, and works on his jab will set up that right hand. All of a sudden, he seems like he's got a little extra pop in his right, which will definitely help Chris Eubank Jr. As far as James DeGale, he might be done. He's been in some big fights, big wars. Joining me right now to get his thoughts is my man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, my man. I'm doing well. I think James DeGale very well may be finished. What do you think?
Well, he's been around a long time, and as you said, sometimes a fighter's career is more based on the wars he's been in, how much he's sustained over the course of the fights, and it only takes one fight to change a fighter, and one bad night, and who knows? I you know me, I can't make that decision or say he's definitely done. It's got to be from his heart and see what he feels. But the bottom line is, I gave Eubank the win, and I think that DeGale's got some work to do in the gym, and he's got to reassess and see what the heck direction he's going to take.
Yeah,
he's at it.
Yeah, well, he took a beating. The power shots that Chris Eubank Jr. was landed was clearly doing some damage. I don't know if he was looking for one shot, if he thought that Eubank was going to run out of gas or what, but I think based on some of the wars that the guy's been in, when you look at his resume, Sal, his last 10 fights were all against top fighters, many of them throwing bombs. His draw that he had against Badu Jack, that was a back and forth battle. I think it finally caught up on him. He's only 33 years old, but he's been in some tough fights. I'm not so sure where he would stand. The division that he's in, they're big guys, they hit hard. I think the cumulative damage that takes place from those power shots, I think it showed. Personally, and no discredit to Chris Eubank Jr. because I thought he fought very well, but I think DeGale is close to being finished, at least in my opinion. For the safety of him and his future.
Well, and that's the big assessment, and that's what no fighter really wants to, sit down and look at, because it is, your heart, your soul, your mind, your passion, your life has been based on these moments, on these few short years that you could show the world what you're going to do. But as we were saying, it only takes one fight, one bad fight or one bad shot, and your brain is on the downward slope. It's just that delicate, that fragile, and who knows? Like you said, it could be any one of the wars or cumulative wars, and. Is he all right today? Sure, he's all right today. Is he going to be all right next week? Yes, he's going to be all right next week. Is he going to be all right next month? Yes. But who knows what's going to happen next year, the year after that? If there's a degenerative syndrome that the brain cells start dying off, and, those are irreversible. And, that, again, is the prize worth the price. He's got to call that shot, and he's got to assess it where he is. You made some great points. He's in a competitive division. They do bang a little bit harder there, and what fights are right around the corner for him to get in a position for a title fight? I don't know, but like I said, I think it's a good sit down with this team to really assess what direction they want to move in.
Well, it's not even what's available. What seems to me with these I'll move on. Let me move on. We'll get back to that a little bit later.
Yes.
Also on that card, 2016 Olympic silver medalist and an unbeaten heavyweight, Joe Joyce, fought Bermain Stiverne. Now, Stiverne, most boxing people that are in the know, all were fooled by Bermain Stiverne. I mean, we thought he was a talented fighter. Deontay Wilder beats him for the title. You know, everybody knows my thoughts on Wilder, but I think the victory, Wilder certainly has gotten better since he beat Bermain Stiverne for the title. But I think we learned that Stiverne was nothing. Not only did he lose the title to Deontay Wilder, but he got blown out in a rematch. He fought this kid, Joe Joyce, last night as the co-main event. And Joe Joyce stopped him via a 6-round stoppage. It was stopped by the referee at 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the 6th round. Joe Joyce improved to 8-0 with 8 knockouts. Stiverne, who came in at 273 pounds, he fought. He definitely didn't lay down, but he also showed that his skill set is just not there. He's a punching bag. Okay, now that is what it is. My point really falls on Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is a heavyweight that they got a lot of, hopes for. And by the way, Sal, in case you thought that we had too many belts, you can thank the WBA, the home of the regular title, and the home of the regular world title, and the home of the super world title. Is now the home of the gold world title. And Joe Joyce won the WBA's gold world title last night. And now he's in line to fight for the WBA's regular world title against the regular world champion, Manuel Charr. Now, if you remember, Manuel Charr was supposed to fight Frezuquendo, who's 75 years old today, and he finally didn't sign the contract. This was a fight that was guaranteed to Frezuquendo 4 years ago. I think it might even be 5 years ago. So my point after all this rambling, Sal, is simply this. Joe Joyce looks like a really good prospect, but in my opinion, no way is he ready for any of these top-level heavyweights. I think a victory over 273-pound, nothing special, 273-pound, nothing special, Bermain Stiverne, who was a punching bag, does not set him up for the top dogs in the division. No. And that new gold belt, it sounds more like a Pro-Am belt, which is going to be something we will probably see one day. But it's crazy. Crazy. Watch the bouncing belt. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. And at the end of the fight, Joe Joyce said big things are coming. My next one's going to be for the regular WBA title. I'll be back in the gym. I have to have a couple more fights like this, and I'll be ready for the big champions. What does that say in itself about the WBA's regular world title holder, Manuel Charr? He's fighting him next, and then after a few more fights, he'll be ready for the real champions. His own words. Also on that card, Lee Selby improved to 27-2 when he came back at the lightweight division rather than his championship days as a featherweight. Won a 12-round unanimous decision over Omar Douglas. Douglas drops to 19-3. 116, 112 twice. 115, 114 was the verdict. Here's a case where Omar Douglas seemed to be landing the harder punches throughout the fight. And Lee Selby threw more punches and won, in my opinion, a close fight, as the 115-114 score indicates. I know 116-112 only changes one round, but I thought that Omar Douglas deserved a couple of those rounds where he clearly landed the harder punches, Sal.
Well, I think you're right. It was a good assessment, and I'll tell you, we saw quite a few fights last night. I'll tell you, they're all over the channels.
Well,
all over the spectrum.
No wait, because there's more. Because later in the night, as in true fashion, which always is synonymous with the Dirrell brothers, once again we saw drama. Anthony Dirrell former champion, was fighting for the vacant WBC super middleweight title against Anvi Yildirim. Yildirim going into the fight was once beaten. Andre Dirrell was also once beaten with a draw. Now, in my opinion, this was an extremely close fight. Once again, you have to look at the way judges score the fight. And I say that because it seemed to me that Yildirim was landing the much harder punches. Dirrell was fighting in spurts, but he was more accurate. But here's the thing. As this fight progressed, the momentum started to switch to Yildirim. So even if you're paying attention to the punches landed, punches thrown, the numbers started evening up. And it was indicative of the way, in my opinion, Anthony Dirrell started to look. Now, there was a cut that was caused initially by a headbutt that got really opened up. But the thing is that it was totally under control. And it just seemed to me, as Anthony Dirrell started to fade, next thing you know, the doctor is stopping this fight. And at the time of the stoppage, the scores were 96-94 twice for Dirrell and 98-92 for Yildirim. I thought that the fight was even at the point of the stoppage, but I could certainly see where the aggressiveness and the power punches that Yildirim was giving, that he did have an edge. I didn't like the way this fight ended, and it always seems like there's some kind of BS that goes on when a fighter involved in the fight's last name is Dirrell. One other thing that bothered me, Sal, is they were talking about this fight, and they were talking about Anthony Dirrell, and they were saying, they were making a comment during the fight of how he didn't seem like he was into it, that his mind was elsewhere, and the announcer says, yeah, well, he was saying to us before the fight he was actually thinking about how he's missing his son's basketball game and how he's really missing out on all the activities that his son is doing, during his daily routine. And I couldn't help but say to myself, all of us, unfortunately, in life miss certain events, especially our children growing up and some of the events that they have, because we have to do, what do they call that, Sal? Work for a living? Yeah. And Andre Dirrell and Anthony Dirrell, because I'm talking about Anthony here, he's no different. His choice of profession is a professional boxer. And assuming that this guy is in the gym every day, not just in between fights, that's his job. I don't know, man. I thought that was a lame excuse for him. Your thoughts, please.
Well, of course it is. I mean, it's a matter of sacrifice, and you try to do things, and if you're wanting to see or participate in your son's tournaments or events and sporting things, which I'm all for, you do that, and you try to get a flexible schedule when you can run or when you could go to the gym. It just takes a couple days' notice to get the sparring session rescheduled or something else. It's not impossible. And yes, you're doing your due diligence. You're not taking your lunch pail to work, but you're taking your gym bag to the gym, and that's your work.
Right. And just like you said, it's one thing to miss something, and I know that sucks, but you said the most important thing: you adjust your schedule. It is what it is. This is how the guy makes money. It's just, it's, to me, it's a cop out. I don't know. That's just my opinion. There's always drama with both Anthony and Andre Dirrell. So to tell you the truth, I don't even like watching their fights. I really don't.
You said that.
Yeah, I don't even like watching their fights. And to be honest with you, it just seems like all the PBC fighters, they get these crazy scores. They never really fight each other. They're always complaining. There's always trouble around them. I mean, it's fact is facts. Just look around at the fighters that cause the most trouble and see who they're aligned with. On this card, there were some other good fights. In the welterweight division, Jamal James improved to 25-1 when he scored a 6th-round stoppage over Janier Gonzalez. I thought this was a mismatch. Gonzalez looked good on paper. losing only the second time in his career. He's now 19-2. But James was clearly the better fighter in a fight that really, I think it magnifies what I'm talking about. Jersey and Rosario improved to 18 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw when he stopped Marcos Hernandez at 2:45 of the 9th round. Hernandez drops to 14-2 and 1. This was actually a rematch. Their first fight ended in a draw. This was a great fight and was a great example of the problem with the scoring of fights, Sal. Rosario was clearly landing the harder, more damaging punches, but Hernandez was landing more, and he was more accurate. His punches didn't have any pop. They didn't cause any damage, but because of the stoppage, we never really saw, at least I didn't see, what the scores were leading up to this fight. Leading up to the stoppage, I should say. When a fighter is landing half the punches, Sal, but he's doing more damage, I don't think that fighter has been getting the nod on judges' scorecards. I think that they've gone specifically to a amount of punches landed versus the damaging effect. What do you think? Do you see that in recent fights over the last several years?
I do, and it's always been. I mean, ever since my amateur career. I mean, you've always heard. I've said this before. What does it take? Does it take 10 jabs to equal 1 power punch, or something like that? It's hard, and when you see, that's why it's so subject to a judge's opinion and what they see in the fight and what their criteria is, how they judge a fight. And that's why, they're supposed to all be around the same neighborhood or on the same page. But, it is subject to human error or to the individual, what they see and how they see it. You may have a judge that does appreciate the fine art of boxing, slipping, moving, landing the shots, and doing what they have to do. Then you may have another judge that likes to see the guy come wading in and blocking the punches and countering. So it does really become subject to one's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's subjective. It's just, when you look at some of these fighters and the beatings they are taking and then they lose, the other way around, and then they win the fight because they, were tapping with the jab. I don't know. I just it's disheartening. One last fight I wanted to mention real quick. Umberto Soto improved to 69 wins, 9 losses, and a couple of draws with 37 knockouts when he beat one of my favorite fighters, Bam Bam Rios, who drops at 35-5 in a super welterweight or junior middleweight fight in Tijuana. The way the judges scored it, 119, 111, 118, 112 twice. Bam Bam Rios is 32 years old, was going to get a shot at a title if he won this fight. Now that shot goes to 38-year-old Umberto Soto. I liked the fight. It was extremely entertaining.
Yes.
But, here's the thing. Some people are arguing that Rios might have been robbed a little bit. When you look at the scores, they did seem a little lopsided. But here's the bottom line. Rios, he was the aggressor throughout the whole fight, Sal. Throughout the whole fight, he was the guy coming forward. But here's the thing. You got to throw punches. You can't just move forward. And the bigger weights that Rios has gone up to, he's lost his power. He used to wear down his opponents. Used to break them down, body, boom, then the stoppage. But as he started moving up, and he's fighting, 3 or 4 weight classes above his championship weight, he's just not the same. So now what you have is an aggressive fighter who throws punches that's not really hurting his opponent, and he's taking a beating. What was your thoughts on this fight?
Well, same thing. You saw, where we would classify as effective aggressiveness, but effective meaning you're coming in with punches and you're landing the blows, you're cutting off the ring, you're doing what you have to do. I mean, it was an entertaining fight. They were in front of each other and they were exchanging. I thought Soto did a very good job counterpunching, and it looked like he tried to steal a lot of the rounds in the last 30 seconds, last 15 seconds, and he closed some of the rounds pretty well with combinations and things. So, I think that Rios really got assessed. As you said, I'll tell you what, Bill, both these fighters looked a little pudgy, and And maybe Rios is fighting above and beyond where he was his best.
He was the best at lightweight. He's fighting junior middleweight.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if he wanted to really be serious, I mean, really what it is just gym work and pushing yourself away from the table and watch what you eat. And
like Jerrell Miller, kind of like what Jerrell Miller does, right? Oh, wait a minute, he eats the whole table. That's right, different.
Table. Not only does he take his lunch pail to work, but man, he takes the whole suitcase.
He takes a garbage pail full, you know. But hey, you know, I wanted, you know, we're a diversified show here. We talk about many things.
We do,
and you know, I want to share something with everyone. You don't have the camera on me, but you know, our United States Post Office, right? And years ago, we used to say, you know, oh, they're going postal, you know, because you know, people mundane work, you know, they're sorting envelopes all day long, doing whatever they're doing, same thing every day, and somebody pisses them off, and that's when, you know, people used to go to work and, you know, take things in their own hand. Not that it's okay, but that's where the term going postal came from. Well, as we keep raising the price to mail a letter here in the U.S., you know, it dawned on me, you know, it went up again. It's 55 cents, I think, now to mail a letter. And, you know, I started thinking, you know what, maybe it's not that much of a ripoff. It is kind of hard, you know, they deliver it right to the box and everything. Well, I get this, first couple of weeks ago, I get this call from somebody that I sent the check to. And they said, you know, could you send us another check? And they sent me a piece of, they said, all we got was this in the mail. It was just a part of the check that had my name on it. So I sent them another check. Well, I got the other half. And this is it. Okay, this is what I got from the post office. Okay, it's a half an envelope that shows the return address, and in it happens to be the half a check. Okay, the other half a check with the statement, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm chuckling. I'm ready to throw it out, but I couldn't help but read what it says, Sal. It says, "Dear postal customer, we sincerely regret the damage to your mail during the handling by the Postal Service. We hope this incident has not inconvenienced you. We realize that your mail is important and that you have every right to expect it delivered in good condition. Although every effort is made to prevent damage in the mail, occasionally errors will occur because of the great volume handed and the rapid processing methods which we must employ in order to do the distribution as well as possible. We hope you understand, and we continually strive to make our service great. Your postmaster." I don't know, Sal. You got to see the pieces. This is how it came. I mean, I don't know. I just want to
I like to see it.
I just want to say keep up the good work, United States Post Office. All right, some big news in the sport of boxing, Sal. Tyson Fury, this is a guy that never stops to amaze me. And earlier in the week, he amazed the boxing world, signing a deal with ESPN and a combined, now he's got two promoters, with Bob Arum of Top Rank. So he's in cahoots now with Bob Arum and Top Rank, with ESPN and his regular promoter, Frank Warren. He's issued a statement saying that ESPN is the biggest sporting network in the world, combined with BT Sports. So I'll have dual viewers from America and the UK. Gives me the opportunity to be on the biggest broadcasting network in the world. Now they have to come to the Tyson Fury show. What this all means, Sal, is that the rematch that the WBC has ordered to take place between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder is in jeopardy. It very well may not happen. They are demanding more than a 50-50 split. The WBC states that because Wilder is still the champion, their rules indicate that it's a 60-40 split, Deontay Wilder's favor. Tyson Fury wants no less than a 50-50, and as a matter of fact, he believes he deserves 60-40. Doesn't look like the fight's going to take place. What's your thoughts?
Well, that's a shame. And you know what? Because who loses? The fans. And it was a good competitive fight. It was not a clear victor. and a rematch was a natural and was spoken about as soon as they before the show ended. And I think that the fans are going to lose out on this more than anybody. And I think there should have been a mandatory rematch clause to begin with, and that would have preceded any obligation with any promoters and networks. So again, it's the politics getting involved.
Well, the point is that they're not saying that the rematch won't happen. What they're saying is it's not going to happen next, and that's the problem, because what they're talking about potentially is now that if Fury doesn't fight Deontay Wilder, the WBC can invoke their rematch or invoke their mandatory challenger, which is Dominic Breazeale, and force a fight with Deontay Wilder against him, and then Tyson Fury would fight someone else. And they're talking about the possibility of a Pulov fight or, some other fighters as well in the mix. So, that's one fighter they're mentioning with Cuba Pulov. And none of them want to fight Anthony Joshua. And then that fight looks like, because we wanted to see the winners fight each other. I mean, the top three fighters, Sal, with Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder, for the sport to deny the boxing fan a fight between any of them fighting each other, I think is a travesty. And the fact that you could make an argument business-wise, they're marinating, but the truth of the matter is they can't make the money fighting the other fighters as much as they can make fighting themselves, win, lose, or draw. And it wouldn't affect the purses that they would make even if they lost. I don't understand the thought process here, Sal.
Well, as you said, promoters have a fancy way of disguising things or camouflaging them by using the term marinating or doing this or doing that. And I use that term of a round robin, a trilogy or so. You have these three fighters, and yes, there's been talk of, we started talking 2 years ago about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. That fight never happened, and there's only one fight away that it'll never happen because you don't know. Look at it this way. If Deontay Wilder lost that fight to Tyson Fury, in the eyes of people and judges, we wouldn't be talking about a potential Deontay Wilder-Anthony Joshua fight with both fighters going in undefeated as champions. Won't happen. So any fight they take other than what the fight that the fans want to see is potentially the one fight that we will never have, that fight that we really want to see. So you've said it many times. I've concurred with you on that. And that's what could happen. You have a rematch for a reason, because you just put on a great fight. Fans are hungry. They want to see round 13, round 14. They want to see the continuance of what would happen. And that's when the iron's hot and it should strike.
Well, keep one other thing in mind. We got to take a break. We're going to get Dax on, but keep one thing in mind. They finally released the numbers for the pay-per-view between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury.
Oh, good.
You know what it was? 300,000 buys. Now, I think if a normal fighter got 300,000 buys, I don't know if that they would complain, but I'm disappointed in those numbers. I thought that it would have done significantly better. I'm not so sure if it's one of two things. Either people didn't think that it was going to be a competitive fight and didn't bother to buy it, or what I think, it goes to show you Deontay Wilder is not a draw. Even though he fought Tyson Fury wasn't taken seriously. Now, the next fight obviously would do a lot better with the pay-per-view buys. But at the end of the day, these guys are walking away from big money. It doesn't make sense. Sal, we'll be talking later. I got a bunch of emails to read that you're going to love and some other news. So don't go nowhere. Sal and I will be back, but first we're going to take a short break, and we're scheduled to get Kahn with us, so don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now to get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And joining us right now, I don't know what he's doing. You see, I have him on camera. It looks like he's waving a magic wand or something over his keyboard. But joining me right now is my man, Kahn. What are you doing, man? I was wondering if you were trying to signal to me. I'm like, what's he doing? What's up, man?
I've had audio video problems for the last couple weeks setting this up, and every time I set it up, all of a sudden I turn it off and the whole thing resets itself, and every day you gotta spend 45 minutes resetting it. It's a pain in the neck, you know. From now on, we're just gonna call bring out the old progressive soup cans that you used to have.
Hey, listen. Oh, yeah, you remember that? Hey, you know what? I just, for a minute there, it sounds like you've hired Sal Rocky Senecola to do all your computing work over there because, it sounds like the same story. Chris Eubank, James DeGale. I love the fight, man, and I thought that Chris Eubank looked a hell of a lot better than I'm used to seeing him. What was your thoughts on that one?
I think I'm in the majority. I've always been a Chris Eubank Jr. fan. It was an ugly fight at times. I believe that, if you asked me 3 years ago, Bill, who the best super middleweight in the sport was, I'd have said James DeGale without a problem. I wouldn't even thought twice. But the injuries, the Achilles, the bone graft from the hip to his shoulder, that caught up with him very quickly. And so I think, James DeGale, he just physically can't do it anymore. Chris Eubank Jr., you're right. He's getting better. I just think he needs to work behind his jab a little bit more. Yeah. I think he needs to learn how to cut off the ring a little bit more. But other than that, I think Chris Eubank Jr., he has power. He has a solid chin. And, I like the team that he has behind him now. Nate Vasquez, I think, is a big bonus inside his corner. I think, it's a lot better than having his father over there. James DeGale, he had a great career. There's nothing to be ashamed of. In my opinion, he's even had a Hall of Fame career considering he was, the first British Olympian to become a gold medalist to become a world champion, a two-time world champion. And the future for Chris Eubank Jr., it's bright. I'm ready to see, what happens with him. And if he improves a little bit more, I'd like to see him have his rematch with Billy Joe Saunders or one of the other top super middleweights in the division.
You're 100% correct. I agree with you about Chris Eubank because if he does fight better behind his jab, in other words, if he uses his jab more, and you're right, if this guy can not only fight behind his jab, but also move his head just a little more, I think he's all there, and cutting the ring off. If he cut the ring off half as well as he did last night, I don't even think this fight would have went into the round that it got stopped in. I don't know. I think he's close though. Dax, Chris Eubank is close for being in the discussion. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, is it just me, or did referee Michael Alexander be a little over generous to DeGale at times?
Oh yeah. How about the point? The point deduction yes, he threw him to the canvas, but, he was getting frustrated, and the warning of the low blows, they were on the belt line.
And what about how many times DeGale had hit Eubank Jr. behind the head? There was the one time when, I forget which round it was, that Eubank Jr. had slipped and DeGale had punched him behind the head while he was down.
Well, it
was clear on the video.
He did it a couple of times at the bell too, or you could make the argument that it was slightly after the bell. But he was a desperate fighter. He was fighting desperately. After the second round, he went into desperation mode. That's what it looked like to me. Because at first I thought, okay, he wants to get Chris Eubank Jr. in the later rounds. He wants to break him down. He wants to do it. But after the second, maybe third round, I said to myself, nah, he's not doing this. He's in survival mode.
Yeah, it seems so. And like I said, I've never seen a guy, such a high-level fighter, go down so fast.
Yeah. Joe Joyce was on the undercard of that fight, Dax, and a lot of fanfare about him. He's a big heavyweight. He seems like a really good listener and learner, but he's not ready for the big fights yet. A win over Stiverne does not show me that he's ready. And one thing I can't help but notice, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, is it me, or does he throw his punches with no power behind him? He lands flush, but for a guy his size, I would expect more power. Am I not giving him credit? Should I be giving Stiverne more credit for a solid chin or what?
No, I think Joe Joyce, even though he is 33 and he only has, I think that was his 9th fight last night, I believe, or 8th fight.
8th.
He hasn't fought any killers. He's fought some pretty good journeymen. He's fought, I believe, aside from Joe Hanks, I believe that he fought, and a few other guys that I can't think of right this moment that you put me on the spot. But now he's with Abel Sanchez, which is a plus. We know Abel Sanchez is a great technical coach, and he's also a guy who really knows how to teach his fighters how to sit down on their punches, as we know with Gennady Golovkin and a few other guys inside that camp. So Leroy Thomas is the other guy I was speaking about. He seems to be getting better in each outing, but, time is not on his side. He's 6'6". He has an 80-inch reach. He needs to be a little bit more mobile. He needs to. He's an active heavyweight inside the ring. He throws a lot of punches. He needs to get a little bit more head movement inside there. And I'm not so worried about the, how hard he hits. If you can keep a volume, you can keep that pressure up, and you have a solid chin, that'll bring you a long way in this sport, and a long way in that heavyweight division. Because as big as a puncher as Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua are, they're really not guys who like to be pressured. And if you can, deal with that power and you can continuously pressure them, you can give them a hard time, and you can definitely stay in that top mix. Tyson Fury, not a big puncher, but you know what? He's a great boxer. He has a great chin, and he's shown that himself, exactly what you can do if you have a well-rounded skill set and you have a solid chin and you're that size in that division.
True. I just think that they're talking about Stiverne as being a measuring stick, and he was a punching bag, Dax. He had no defense. He took a lot of shots, was very little coming back. He was throwing that overhand right, and it was landing. So you say to yourself, Abel, I'm sure, is going to work on some defense. Now, going to one of your, I know you're a huge fan of both Dirrell brothers, but once again, these guys are I hate to point the finger. I still believe, and I laughed my butt off listening to some of the comments Boom Boom Mancini was making to Khalid Plant, because Plant was talking like a lot of young fighters today about, what great defense Dirrell is showing. And Boom Boom Mancini's like, what? Because he's running away? That's not defense. You got to be able to fight. But what was your thoughts on the fight, the stoppage, and, of course, the drama that always seems to follow both Dirrell brothers?
Well, since you mentioned it, I'll address them first real quick, both Ray Mancini and Caleb Plant. Number one, Ray, I was a big fan of his as a boxer, of course, but, as a commentator, just like somebody else that we know, once they joined with the PBC, it seems that they're saying scripted stuff, because I've never heard stuff come out of their mouths like this before, whether or not it be in person or on TV. Ray Mancini, he really got overboard in the Gonzalez fight when Gonzalez and James fought. And remember, even when they showed on the replay that Gonzalez, all those punches missed and the feet were tangled up, Ray Mancini's going wild and he's screaming and he's yelling, "I don't care, that touched his shoulder, I don't care." Somebody in the crowd, and it just, even Caleb Plant was sitting there and just arguing with him. As for Caleb Plant, I understand that, you're young and you want to hype up your division, but when he's sitting there saying, right now, the super middleweight division is the deepest it's ever been in history, and all I'm saying to myself is, I know there's a guy named Carl Froch, Jermaine Taylor, Arthur Abraham, Mikkel Kessler, and somebody named Andre Ward that might differ with you, and that was only about 10 years ago. And Joe
Calzaghe, even Calzaghe, who I never liked. Throw him
Joe
in the mix.
Calzaghe is the all-time king of that division. We're not even going to get into that. There's not a guy at 168 pounds that touches him.
Anyway, I won't comment. I won't comment on that, because I have swayed my opinion towards Lennox Lewis. So I'm not gonna, you and I can save that for another day. But I mean, what was your thoughts on the stoppage? I mean, the cut did look bad, but it didn't seem to be, changing anything for Dirrell. What disheartened me is it's the same script. Yildirim was landing the harder, more efficient punches. Dirrell was throwing his punches in spurts. If you scored the fight, the first couple of rounds, I leaned towards Dirrell. But after that, I thought Yildirim took over. I thought the stoppage came at a point where if they let this fight go 2 more rounds, I don't think there's any question that Dirrell loses. What's your thoughts?
If you listen to the corner in between there, we won't go, but when somebody goes back in there, listen to the corner and see what they were saying, and then you'll understand that, they were not that confident over there. And as you just stated yourself, all the time when these Dirrell brothers are in trouble, there seems to be some sort of drama. All of a sudden now they start getting the doctor to look at that cut, because Yildirim is a guy that they thought was going to go away easy, And that didn't happen. So Yildirim, it was a good fight. I think Yildirim, I agree, he would have got that stoppage another 2 rounds later. And I think Dirrell kind of squeaked away with it. Either way, whether or not it's Anthony Dirrell, whether or not it's Caleb Plant, whether or not it's Chris Eubank Jr., the king of that division is Caleb Smith.
You know,
I mean,
McCallum Smith.
Callum Smith, Callum Smith is the king of that division, and I don't see anybody in that division touching him, coming close to him, even if Zuri Raimundo decides to stay there. David Benavidez, when he comes back, he gets back in the mix. I think that Smith right now is the top. He hasn't even been in a close fight. He's the lineal champion. He won the World Boxing Super Series, so everybody else right now is just an also-ran, and Smith happens to be with the biggest promoter in the sport today. So
Isn't Hurd a super middleweight, or is he light heavy?
Is who?
Hurd.
Jarrett Hurd is a junior middleweight.
That's right. That's right. He's a junior middleweight that looks like I'm sorry. I thought he was in the heavyweight division. But that's how big that guy is. Oh my God. But it just seems like when the PBC fighters are involved, there's always some shenanigans. One fight I do want to comment before I jump into something else was the fight between Jerson Rosario and Marcos Hernandez was another, as far as I'm concerned, it showcased what I think is wrong with the scoring system. I thought that Rosario was winning the fight, and I believe that if this fight went to the final bell, he might have lost on the scorecard stacks because Hernandez was clearly landing more punches. But Rosario was landing the much more devastating and harder shots. They weren't as accurate. You got to give Hernandez credit. He was accurate and throwing and landing more. But the damage that Rosario was doing was obvious and ultimately stopped Hernandez. But this is where that argument that we're always talking about, where you say to yourself, is a judge just scoring on punches landed, or is he evaluating and scoring based on the power shots? How do you think the scores were looking? I don't know what they were, but do you think that Rosario was winning on the judges' cards as well?
Maybe, it's tough on, again, what you prefer, and we see that all the time. Do you prefer the power? Do you prefer the volume? So that's one of those fights where I wouldn't have had a hard time either way, no matter who won, as long as the scores were within 2 or 3 rounds at the most.
The big news in the sport was the signing, Tyson Fury signing with ESPN and Top Rank to co-promote him along with Frank Warren. This opens up a whole can of worms with the top 3 heavyweights in the division. Of course, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, as we're talking about, and Deontay Wilder. Now it just seems like it's going to prolong any of them fighting each other. What's your thoughts on the signing here, Dax?
I think it's great for boxing, and what I think here is just another nail in the coffin of PBC. Because right now, what you're starting to see is, we have all the competition, we have all the streaming services. Bob Arum is more willing to work with everybody else, and Bob Arum, the old wise veteran that he is, I can see him, getting a quicker opportunity for Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua as he agrees with, his ESPN deal and he works with DAZN. And, the PBC just pretty much being phased out. The PBC, even last night, it starts late, and then on top of that, once it does start, they're talking about another sport. They're talking about what happened in boxing in the building. So from basketball that happened, 20 years ago in that building. So, I think it's great, and I just actually, I'm going to, I'll say this, and I'll just leave it at that. When the PBC folds, boxing will once again be what it used to be. Right now, the PBC, it just stresses me. There's always drama. There's always that same little in-house circle of fighters, and the fighters themselves don't even realize how robbed they're getting. And once they start going with other people, as we have seen with a lot of these other guys, whether or not it's a Eddie Hearn or whether or not it's a Bob Arum and so on and so forth, they seem to flourish. They do better, and they're actually getting opportunities they deserve. So you know what? Let this happen, let those things happen, and then maybe Deontay Wilder can get out of his contract and he'll jump over with Eddie Hearn, and then he'll jump with Bob Arum, and then the heavyweight division will actually really once again be the top of the sport.
Well, that was part of the deal that he's turned down already. Apparently, and according to ESPN, which is generally accurate with their stories, is that Team Fury, which is now Top Rank and Frank Warren, offered Wilder the rematch and some big bucks as long as he signed a 5-fight deal. Tyson Fury, which could have, Deontay Wilder, which could have made more money in those 5 fights, regardless of who he fought, than he would with the deal he's got now, especially since he's getting boxed out. If you stop and think about it, his value is the least, 300,000 buys for a world heavyweight title fight in America against an American. That's sad. And you make an interesting point, and it almost makes this harder for these guys to get together, Dax, because ESPN and Top Rank are associated with ESPN Plus, and DAZN is associated with Anthony Joshua. I'm not so sure that they could actually do a co-promotion right out of the gate, especially since both streaming services are trying to establish themselves. So that, in a sense, this deal between Tyson Fury and ESPN and the deal that Anthony Joshua has with DAZN, and Deontay Wilder just being out on the island with the rest of the PBC fighters, I can't see these 3 guys getting in the ring against either one of themselves anytime soon.
I think that the deal between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury would happen sooner than later. I think Bob Arum, he's smart. We know that's why he's been in the sport so long. He knows how to make money, and we know Eddie Hearn knows how to make money, and we know that Eddie Hearn, his involvement with DAZN, and we know Bob Arum, his deal with ESPN. So I can see that happening, and I see Deontay Wilder getting boxed out, and, that's, the future of the sport. But somebody told me the other day, PBC has the biggest talent roster. They told me that the PBC has the most loyal fighters, and they told me the PBC has the greatest cards. What I see here is all the top names that are with the PBC making a fraction of what these other guys are making, and I just see the PBC really failing quickly. And these guys, what's going to happen is they're going to end up being fed to guys in the other divisions and guys with the other networks as opponents, simply because they made it so hard to work with during their time with Al Heyman. Yeah, and everybody else is going to say, you know what, you want to make it so hard to work with us, now we're not feeding you.
Yeah, but the best part of it is that, unfortunately, because it's not going to be the best part for the PBC fighters, but the PBC has protected these guys so much, and these guys have been fighting fighters with either way beyond their talent because they're washed up, or fighters just that have these blown up records, so that when they finally do get in the ring with somebody else, they're not going to stand a chance. One thing I did notice about the PBC is that they're actually trying to be like the UFC. They're trying to create their own self-contained league. And the funny thing is they're starting to lose fighters. So they have their own little group of fighters that aren't fighting anyone else. And the talent, like you suggest, is less than stellar, and I can't see a young fan I can't see a young fan staying to be a fan of these fighters, personally.
Bill, this is what happened with the PBC is that
pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee, or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us, and joining us right now to give us his thoughts on the fights and other stuff is my man Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Having another little rainstorm here, but it's not snow, so
You mean like what we're getting up here?
Yeah,
right.
You're getting
yeah. I can see why people go where they go cabin crazy. It's not really the cabin that makes you go crazy, but in any event. First and foremost, Chris Eubank against James DeGale. I loved the fight, and I liked what I saw with Chris Eubank. As a matter of fact, I never was very high on him, but I think my attitude is changing. I think if the guy can utilize his jab a little more, and like Dak suggested a few minutes ago, learn to cut the ring off, I think he's going to be a tough out in that division. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that he definitely seemed to come into his own last night. He's always been, I guess you got to say, a heel. He sort of likes cultivating. I mean, you heard the boos when he was introduced. He doesn't mind that role. His father kind of had the similar role. It works for the Eubanks. They're the fighters you love to hate type thing. But yeah, I thought he looked good last night. It does, like what Dax was saying, it does look like James DeGale is a guy who really got old in front of us and got old really quickly. He looked very awkward, more awkward than usual, and I think that Eubank did a good job in just really thumping him and making a claim for himself that he's a force to be reckoned with. And I guess both him and his father were saying that at this point they might go the next fight at 168 or 160. So, you know, he's got his options open. I think that's one of the things about him is that he's like he has a fan base, will travel, that kind of thing.
Well, I thought that they were the fans were booing Chris Eubank at first. But when he won the fight, they cheered. He seemed to become the favorite. That's the one thing I love about the British fans. I mean, they're boxing fans. This is why I really believe that this particular, in myself, I know it's being selfish, but I think this particular show would be great in England. And I'm not just saying that because the nature of the fan base for the sport of boxing in England is more appreciative of a show like this than some of the fans here, because they're not. A lot of fans in the U.S. are very closed-minded. They like their guy, and that's it. No one can teach them anything else. So here you have a fight where they're booing one guy, but after his performance, they give the credit where credit's due, and I think that that's exactly what happened, Alex.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's the thing. That's sort of the cool thing about heels, I guess, is that that they can surprise you, and I think that just through their athletic performance, they can win people over. Something froze. I'm not sure what happened.
Well, we still got you, just a camera, so don't be scared. I
won't be scared.
We'll just take the camera off the off your frozen face. Oh, there you're back anyway. It happens with the new technology. Isn't it great, boys and girls? You know, it's like you don't need a wire for a phone anymore either, but you don't got great reception. But what was your thoughts on Joe Joyce?
I think he is still very green. He is a work in progress. I kind of thought that Al Bernstein was doing his best to be nice. Yes, it did seem like Joyce, weathered one or two hard punches in the first round, but I'm not sure you can really, learn much with a win like that over a shell of what once looked like Berman Stiverne. I don't know. Joyce is there's a real tentativeness in the way he seems to throw his punches. He doesn't really seem to plant his feet. But, he's still green, so it's early in his career. Let's see what he's got. He's still developing. But you're right. What you were saying with Sal and what you were saying with Dax is that the idea that he's, a top contender, that's just really, really premature. The jury's still out on him.
Well, now, you got to talk to him with a much deeper level of respect, Alex, because he's now the WBA's world gold champion or gold world champion, and he puts him in line to fight the WBA's regular world heavyweight champion, the household name Manuel Charr, who was waiting to fight Frezuquendo, who, after waiting 10 years to fight the guy, almost 5 to be exact, and turning 67 or 75, I forget how old he just turned, he didn't sign the contract, which I thought was pretty strange, so he's out of the loop. My point is, with the 3 top dogs in the division now, AJ, Tyson Fury, and of course Deontay Wilder, a guy like Joe Joyce, and even Dillian White, and even Derek Chisora, and any other young heavyweight that's even in the mix, they're going to be fighting each other, while the 3 top dogs are going to be dancing around making money and not fighting each other. What ends up giving you a fight between one of these young fighters that are really still in the developmental stage to all of a sudden get a shot. I mean, let's be real. Everybody knows I can't stand Jerrell Miller. But when you look at the facts, and the facts are, who did he fight to deserve a fight against a top dog, let alone the top heavyweight in the world? And don't you see these young fighters following the same path of least resistance? As long as they stay busy, they get a world title shot?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that becomes more likely now, like, as you're saying, when you have 3 different media platforms that the top considered champions are each with. So now, if Joshua is going to fight on DAZN, he needs an opponent on DAZN. If Wilder's going to fight only on Showtime, he needs an opponent on Showtime. If Fury's only going to fight on ESPN with Top Rank, then he needs an opponent there. Because we're not going to have any unification bouts. So it is frustrating for a fan. It's funny because there's so many things from the 80s that are big again. And it almost feels, Billy C., you must feel the same way, that it's time for a heavyweight unification tournament. Where's Don King and Butch Lewis with his tuxedo and no shirt? We need, the idea that Fury signed with Top Rank, I don't mean to jump the gun to talk about that, but I don't think that as much as it makes sense for him promotionally to have a media platform behind him, it is not good for fans because it makes a deal of seeing a Fury Wilder, a Fury Joshua, a Wilder Joshua. It makes it more difficult to happen because now you have to get the networks to agree. And as we saw this week, ESPN, who claims they want to keep their fingers on the pulse of the sport, pulled Anthony Joshua and Jerrell Big Baby Miller from all their they had them to promote their DAZN fight, but one of the higher mucky mucks must have realized, why are we promoting a DAZN fight? Let's not give him any airtime. Well, if you guys are the worldwide leader in sports, you should cover it because it's Anthony Joshua fight. But it just shows you that we're going to get into this little corporate pissing contest between all these guys, and that doesn't help fans at all.
Alex, it goes back to what I've been saying. It's first of all, they're all trying to follow a very successful model with the UFC and Dana White. But unfortunately, they can't grab it as well as he did. He encompassed the whole league and became the big dog, right? Well, the boxing sees, wow, we wish we could have done that, but there's too many other tangibles involved, a la sanctioning bodies and different promoters with different deals, et cetera, et cetera. So what has evolved is the big promoters, the top dogs, if you will, have aligned themselves with a network, whether it's television or streaming, and they're saying, okay, this is how you get to see our fighters. Buy this network. The network is paying the fighters. So when you sign a deal, a $300 million deal with fighters like Anthony Joshua, and then another $300 million deal with fighters like Canelo Alvarez, and you're DAZN, and you're charging $10 a month, and you're trying to make this money, it's a business. They got to make money. So their expense is X amount of money per fight for these big names. I'll bet you dollars to donuts right now that they're not going to do anything to work with ESPN and their platform that people are paying $5 a month for. That's going to further divide it. You're going to see different roads. These other young fighters that may very well have possessed enough talent to be, top dogs themselves someday are going to be rushed to judgment too quickly because there's not enough bodies around. So you're going to see them jumping around fighting the Wilders and the Tyson Furies and the Anthony Joshuas, just like Anthony Joshua's getting an easy fight with the fat pig Jerrell Miller. I mean, and then he's actually acting like, he should be the favorite. I mean, come on, who's really buying this stuff? But I see more division than unity, Alex.
No, I think you're right. And how about that shove at the weigh-in? That almost looked real, didn't it?
He was ready for it. He didn't even bat an eye. But there's a big fan base that they're loving that.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And people buy into it. Which hey, those are all the people I don't care about. Remember?
Yeah, I know, but they're driving the sport right now, brother.
That's right, the casuals.
I know those damn casuals. Oh man, I could say something right now, but I don't want to because I don't know what side of the fence you're on. But and I don't want to get into an argument. But I will just say this: I am going to say it. It's like that that woman politician, I can't stand her. Okay, the AOC. That's all I'm going to say. And all of the,
I love her.
I knew you were going to say that. Forget it. Let's move on. We just lost Alex. I'm sorry. We don't have him anymore. But she's killing me. I can't even look at her. But in any event, back to boxing. So getting to that shove. And finally hearing some of the numbers that came out for Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury won 300,000 buys. What's your thoughts on that, man?
It's too bad. I it's a little disappointing because I knew it was going to be a big deal, and it was a big deal, and it's too bad that it didn't do better. But I think, like you've said, Wilder is not the draw him and his minions think he is, and that kind of proves it. But I think that night we saw something amazing, even though I thought the decision was crappy. I thought that was one of the best heavyweight fights we've seen in a very long time. It was so dramatic. It was terrific. I don't know. It makes you want to see a rematch, but now I don't think that the rematch is as likely to happen as it was. We'll have to see. But I do think that last night was a weird situation. I mean, it did feel like, this is the rise of the apps. And I do think that it was kind of like attention deficit disorder theater for me. I mean, I had my laptop watching DAZN. I had the TV on the PBC on Fox. I kept checking 2 apps on my cell phone because there were fights at Twin River with Marsha Agrippino was fighting, and I was curious as to what was happening with that. Tremaine Williams, fighter out of Ring 1, New Haven, originally was fighting in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So yeah, as a boxing fan, this is difficult now because you're looking all over the place for content. But I don't know, it is kind of cool. I mean, this must be what it's like to be a football or an NBA. Major League Baseball fan when there's a lot of games in a day.
All I know, Alex, is that with boxing, there's so much boxing available now. Nobody's watching anymore.
It's almost like there's a glut of it, and it's too much. And in a way, I kind of thought last night, the fight that was the most fun. It was definitely a fight that only the American Medical Association could love. Was Soto versus Rios, and it just seemed like I wish, I don't know, I mean, maybe more eyes could have been on it because it was a lot of fun to watch. I do agree with you. I thought Soto won big, but I mean, not as big as the margins were. I thought it was more like a 8-4 type fight than, they scored it. They only had Rios winning 2 rounds. I thought it was maybe more like 4. But one thing I did want to mention, I don't know if you caught this, but Grissom and Sergio Mora were talking about that 10-second, the way Soto was fighting in the last 10 seconds. That was actually anachronistic, what they mentioned, because they said that Sugar Ray Leonard was doing that. Remember, there was no tap, tap, tap until 1988 after Marlon Starling versus Tomas Malinares. So Hagler-Leonard, there was no tap, tap, tap. One of the members of Leonard's camp would shout 30 seconds when there was 30 seconds left in the round, and then Ray would flurry. There was no clap, clap warning.
No, I get it. The thing is, that fight was an exciting fight. When you look at the Rios, Umberto Soto, you kind of, I loved both of those fighters. I've always been a Bam Bam Rios fan. But I also realized that there's another guy that's finished. And
absolutely. They're both shot.
Well, this is true. At least they were fighting each other, which makes it more interesting. But what you see with a guy like Bam Bam Rios is that Yes, he's still an aggressive fighter. Yes, he's still exciting. Yes, he still is a warrior out there. But no, he's not throwing any punches anymore. And no, he doesn't have that, I'm going to break my opponent down slowly and finish him off, because he's fighting 3 weight class. He at his best, he was a lightweight. He's fighting junior middleweight last night, Alex. And even Umberto Soto moved up in weight for that. But congratulations to Soto in that fight. But this is what the world has become.
If I could interrupt you for a second, how about when Sergio Mora said he looks like somebody's dad in there, and Todd Grisham like, well, he is somebody's dad.
Yeah, the only thing, to be real critical, I shouldn't say. Listen, the whole. Let's be real. The reason why you're never going to see me in any place like a real top network is because I'm not going to follow the blueprint. I'm going to tell it like it is. The closest thing you're going to hear to somebody calling a fight the way it's happening for real, not what it's saying on the prompter, was Boom Boom Mancini. Did you hear him? Did you hear him with some of the arguments with Khalid Plant, which was pretty funny, because Khalid Plant's trying to say, oh, well, he's talking about Dirrell. He's showing defense, and all of a sudden, Boom Boom's like, come on, man, you can't be defense running away. You got to stand in front of him. And he's basically saying what I've been saying. Sweet science is you hit your opponent, and defense is when you can't get hit, but you're still there to inflict damage on him. He's going, come on, man, come on. And Plant's like, well, and I couldn't help but an image of Floyd Mayweather running with his tracksuit on, and every young fighter that has come after him tries to emulate that. And that's why you have this across-the-board issue with fighters that don't want to engage, fighters that don't want tough fights, promoters that don't want to challenge their fighters, promotional teams and networks who don't want to risk having a fighter lose. I mean, the end result is everyone gets a participation trophy, or in this case, let's invent another belt.
Right, I know. I'm waiting for the peanut allergy belt and the keto belt and the gluten-free belt. How come we don't have those yet? There are people with those conditions that should be considered. No, I did think that the Chris Myers and Ray Mancini arguing was kind of comical, especially over the knockdown that wasn't. The fact that Ray couldn't relent about that was a little disappointing. And then the way they kept talking about it, it was like, look, the replay clearly showed it was not a knockdown. Let's sort of let it go into the night. But they kept talking about it. So, yeah, it was a little off-putting to hear some of the arguing. I don't know. Chris Myers, I didn't care for him at all last night.
But wait, I'll say this about Chris Myers. He doesn't know a left hook from a fish hook. He doesn't, okay? But the difference with him is that he is that canned play-by-play guy. You could put him in the play-by-play role for boxing, for baseball, for football, and he's going to give you the same thing. He's tossing the softball up. There used to only be one other guy, but now we have 2 other guys in the booth. So what he's doing is controlling the action. He's throwing the softballs up to one of 2 guys that are supposed to know what they're watching and convey that to the fan. That's what I like about him. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that any of them are good. Mario Ronaldo, with all his... He's hitting the body so much like this candy going to come out of it. If I hear that one more time, and then, what they were doing with Paulie Malignaggi. If I was James DeGale, I would have had him removed by security in the corner. I mean, he's jumping in front of the trainers. That's all I heard. And then they're like, talking to him like he's still, I'm not part of the show. Oh, we're back with Jim Gray. He's live with Paulie Malignaggi in the dressing room, I'm not part of the show, but this is my whole thought process on everything. I mean, it gets so, I don't know. Is that what people really want to watch?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem as if they were very conscious of, like, we're a show, and our part of what the commentators are part of the broadcast, and we want you to know what's going on with them. I don't know, the way Jim Gray was like joking about what Paulie was wearing, like he wasn't in a suit, and it was, oh, big deal. It's kind of like that when you're watching the regional news and they transition from from sports to weather or from regular news to weather, and they have that little few seconds of banter. Oh, God, that's painful. It's just miserable. That's kind of like what some of that stuff was last night. I don't know. Morrow, he wasn't as annoying to me as he usually is, but I think it was that I was bouncing from one platform to another, and I couldn't focus on one completely. So
hey, let me give you a hint.
Maybe he benefited from that.
Let me give you a hint in case you didn't figure this one out there, Alex. All those streaming platforms, once you subscribe, they're on demand. So you could go back and watch them anytime. So that's the beauty of that part of the technology that I love. Because you know me, I'm in my feety pajamas by 8 o'clock generally, So but I'll get up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I start watching them. I can fast forward the commercials. I don't have to see the stupid I don't listen to a lot of that BS that comes with the broadcast. I certainly don't watch the same old stories. They just punch in different heads. I'm starting to be convinced that they're like photoshopping. Grew up from a small town. Came from nothing. The whole thing. And I got a question. If you come from nothing, now you're like me. You're a historian in this sport, and we've seen this story. I mean, it goes all the way back to my man Molyneux. You come from nothing. And you use the sport to get yourself out of nothing, right? Leave. Why did they stay in nothing? The Dirrell brothers was saying, now whether you I don't like the Dirrell brothers. The Dirrell brothers they bring a negative vibe to the sport. But we know that they've both made, and even if you single them out, they've done pretty well for themselves, providing they don't pull a Floyd Mayweather and throw their money away like it's confetti. But Flint, Michigan, it's not a good place to live. There's no water, even though, I saw the signs, water is a right. I don't know if that's really a true statement. Yeah, I suppose water's a right if you can get it. Is it a right to have it delivered in nice water bottles? I don't know about that. But anyway, the truth of the matter is,
the faucet?
Yeah. Well, the faucet, I do believe so. But get out, leave. If it's that bad, it's like the people that they'll say, and I know this is opening up a can of worms.
Here we go.
I know I shouldn't say this, especially to you, but you got. I know.
I see a stand-up comedian's bit about there's famine. Move.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you live in a place where you can't grow nothing because there's sand all around. Leave. Don't live there. Move.
Who was that?
I don't know. But Flint, Michigan, you haven't had water since 2003. Get the hell out. If everybody leaves the town or the city or whatever the heck it is, I don't even know. I'm sure either they can put a fence around it so no one has to drink that crap, or they'll fix it. I don't know. But the first step is to leave. Call me crazy, man, but
this has been a libertarian moment for Billy C. I don't know. It was interesting how upset Ildrum's corner got. Where I don't know if there was
timing. It was all timing. It was timing because Dirrell was fading, man. He wasn't gonna. That fight was definitely going in Yildirim's direction. Now they stopped that fight earlier. You can't make an argument because Dirrell was winning on points, I thought, early in the fight, like after 3-4 rounds. But then that was it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I agree. I tweeted something like that, it is kind of strange how Dirrell's always seem to be involved in sort of weird stuff. But I did think that especially the promoter of Yildirim was really quite angry for something that he was just completely misunderstanding what happened. and he needed to sort of take it down a notch, be a grown-up. But I do think that, Dirrell looked good. He is one of the best super middleweights in the world. A fight with Eubank. That's cool with me. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Of course, Callum Smith now is the best. Should be recognized the best at 168. But I don't know, man. I mean, I thought it was for all the... Oh, one thing I did want to say to you, and if I could find a video of it, I will send it to you. But our friend and promoter to the stars, Jimmy Birchfield, I guess got into a little post-fight melee at Twin River Casino last night in Providence, Lincoln. If I could find a link, because it was on a streaming thing, so if I could find a link, I'll send it to you, because he actually landed a 1-2 on his opponent's fighter.
Yeah, send that to me. That would be great. But Alex, great job as usual, and we'll be looking forward to you next time. And I just stay away from AOC, man. Stay away. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Forever. New deal.
It's really good in theory, and it's great, but realistic, not so much. But hey, I love some of the vintage footage that has started to emerge of Bernie, and I never thought that he would look so good compared to her. But they're throwing all this footage of him. And, it's funny how the media, you got to believe sometimes about how the media really isn't painting the picture the way it really is. They swing it their way to another. And they have some footage of Bernie Sanders saying, being pro-socialist and fascist and communism, And, you know how he is. But anyway, he goes like this. He says, bread lines are good. And that's what the caption was. Bernie Sanders caught on tape saying bread lines are good, but the rest of the sentence, the rest of the sentence was, bread lines are good. At least those countries feed their starving people, because there's other countries that they just starve to death. So I'm saying to myself, I said, oh, well, hey, that's a good comeback, Bernie. What he said back in the 70s. Hey, that's a good comeback. But still, I kind of like the freedom of going to the store and buying some bread. But that's just me.
See, that's what I love about our sport. Context is everything.
Yeah, exactly. Alex, keep up the good work, brother, and we will talk to you next time.
All right, Billy C., take care.
That was Alex Papali. He's our politician, kind of. I wouldn't call him really. I guess I shouldn't call him a politician, but he definitely tries to keep me in line. But I'm a tough egg. Especially on that side of the fence. But in any event, we got a bunch of emails that I want to get going here. But first, some. Stuff that's taken place, with all this Fury talk and everything. And you guys all know how I feel about Jerrell Miller. I think it's a travesty that this man is getting a shot at a title, let alone a shot at the title that's held by Anthony Joshua. But Tyson Fury made some comments about Jerrell Miller. He claims back in 2011, he hired Jerrell Miller as a sparring partner. Now, keep in mind, I've always thought that Tyson Fury, as good as he is not really a power puncher. According to Tyson Fury, that he dropped Baby Miller 7 times in sparring, had brought him in for a week, and then sent him home the next day, that it didn't even last. And I've heard nothing in response from Jerrell Miller. If this is true, even way back in 2011, if this was true, and Tyson Fury indeed dropped Jerrell Miller 7 times in sparring with the bigger gloves and headgear, I pity poor fat Jerrell Miller when he steps in the ring with Anthony Joshua. Ooh, it might be ugly. Joining me now is Sal Rocky Senecola. 7 times Fury claims to have dropped Miller. Do you think Miller's going to get out of the second or third round with Anthony Joshua? And will he ever talk normal again?
You know, excuse me. Those are good questions. And I'll tell you what. No.
No, is right.
No.
He's
no.
not.
Anthony Joshua has heavy hands. And he can break you down, but chances are he's going to catch him early with a big shot. And once he does, if we're talking about, you know, putting some hurt on a fighter quick, yeah, we'll see that happening. And he'll totally crumble.
We got some other news. Billy Joe Saunders will be, he's getting back in the mix. He's going to be challenging for the vacant WBO's version of the super middleweight title. So that could be the winner of that fight, could be a potential opponent for Chris Eubank Jr., which is a fight that Saunders already had a win over Eubank. So we'll see what happens there. I mentioned a little earlier that Freza Cuendo, who's turned 75, who was waiting since 2014 to get a shot at the WBA regular world heavyweight champion, who's changed since that lawsuit started. It's now Manuel Charr. Finally had it. He won it. He had the contract in front of him and never signed it. It expired. That fight is off. And now Manuel Charr looks like he will be fighting this new kid, or not new kid, but the 8-0 Joe Joyce, which I think is kind of funny. But I got some emails to read, Sal.
That sounds good. Hey, I also wanted to comment a little later about some of the things I heard in the segment with you and some of the guys. But you chime me in later when you're ready to hear that.
All right. I want to give a shout out to my man Johnston, who just gave us a super chat. I appreciate that. As you guys know, super chats help us keep going. And here's the thing. Beginning, it's a little tough now because it's towards the end, but I'm going to start giving out some stuff. I got a bunch of stuff. I got some T-shirts. I got copies of my book. I got the Title Bout Championship game. I also have some other books. We're going to start giving out prizes beginning on next week's show for Super Chats. So you give us a Super Chat, and on each segment of the show, the person that gives us the highest Super Chat will win the prize. So in other words, I'm going to bid. I'm going to have bidding. I'll say today's Super Chat is a T-shirt, and I'll hold up the T-shirt, and we'll do a segment. Whoever gives us the highest Super Chat will win that T-shirt, my book, other books. We're even going to throw in a free pizza at Sal's. Oh, I should have mentioned that to Sal, but we're going to do that too. So we're going to have all of this for Super Chats beginning next week. So start saving your pennies. But we will keep you posted on that. I got some emails. This first one's from Jesse. He says, my picks are Rios over Soto in a sloppy fight, may be boring. Well, this fight certainly wasn't boring, and Rios, I would have thought, would have won too, but he didn't. He says, I'm taking Dirrell. He says, I'm taking Yildirim in a late TKO over Dirrell. Maybe some controversy, maybe some shenanigans. Well, I think that you would have been right, Jesse. I think Yildirim was leaning towards winning by a late TKO stoppage, and there certainly was controversy and shenanigans. So you were right there. He picked Anthony Hernandez to beat Rosario in a slugfest. That he came up short. Jamel James to stop Gonzalez. He was right on that. And Joe Joyce stopping Stiverne, which you were right. He says, what's your thoughts on Mikey Garcia criticizing Crawford's resume, basically saying he hasn't fought anybody, and Crawford responding by saying don't quit like he did against Salido. What's your thought? My thoughts is that I can't believe when people discredit Terrence Crawford's resume. I love Mikey Garcia. It's totally out of character for him. Maybe he's trying to set up his next fight. What's your thoughts of people that criticize Terrence Crawford's record, Sal?
Well, they have a right to do so. And again, it's, you look at the resume. And you look at some fighters that are probably trying to instigate and get a fight with them too. And, this could be that case in the classic showdown. So who knows? And, Crawford has the right to respond and call him out on it. And this is what happens in the media today. And it could be a way to promote and have the public start to think about that kind of fight and chat about it. So you never know. That would be a good fight.
Well, I mean, I think that Terrence Crawford, when you look at his resume, for people that say he hasn't fought anybody, it burns my butt because he has, and it's a shame. You got to look at fighters when they fight opponents and where that opponent was at that time. Fighters there's many fighters out there that get ruined after one fight. I mean, right, Sal? Here's a guy that could be a guy could be 15-0 and fight somebody and get knocked out, and you never see him again. He's ruined after one fight. I mean, that's true, right?
It happens every week, and it's so true. And I'll tell you what, and not taking anything away from Crawford, because I know you are a super chat fan of his, and I respect it, and I respect him. And, the story as it is fabulous. I mean, he was brought in as the opponent on some good fights early on, and he turned the tides and was able to surprise everybody and say, hey, I'm not that guy. I'm the other guy. And sure enough, he earned his way up to the top, and he climbed it. He proved himself. But I think, what could be said is with the crop of the top fighters in that division, whether there's some people who have been avoiding him or, like I said, it's very seldom is it the fighter's fault of not having that pedigree line, because fighters are just that, fighters. They'll fight whoever they need to prove that they're the best. That's a real good fighter. And, I think this is more or less just some kind of rhetoric and publicity and maybe trying to instigate a fight. So, hey, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We'll see.
And we got some other emails that I wanted to get to. Actually, we got several. This one's from my man Coach. He says, hey, Billy C., not to beat the WWE thing to death, but once again, boxing just can't shake the path of least resistance. This time it comes on Showtime on the undercard of DeGale versus Chris Eubank Jr., with the undefeated Joe Joyce facing the badly fated Deontay Wilder Domino, Bermain Beware of Carb Stiverne. Stiverne, after this 265-pound farce with against Deontay, tipped the scales at 273 pounds. I know you know it, but hating to have to say that this is more one way to fix a fight. The question will be, the UK's real boxing fans, will they get fooled again? That's a good way to ask it, Sal, because we've been kind of talking about that in a roundabout way all day today, about Joe Joyce. Yes, he beat Bermain Stiverne, but Stiverne just looked like literally a heavy bag, maybe an overweight heavy bag. Didn't have any defense, did land a few shots on the kid, but I don't know if that really shows us anything about Joyce, other than I would like to see him fine-tune his skills a little better. I don't think that he should be in the mix fighting a top contender at this point. I think it could ruin his career.
Well, and that's the whole thing, Sometimes you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't fight top contenders, you're like, oh, well, he's never fought anybody. Look at his resume. If you do fight top contenders and you come up on the short end, well, you have your whole career redirected or stopped or just stalled. So it is really some things that, a camp's got to talk with the fighter and the trainer, and they've got to see exactly what's the roadmap we want to lay out. What's our goal? What do we want to do here for this year ahead? And it could be, do we get a title shot now or later, or whatever we want to do. Like I said, that's all part of the, no pun intended, the war room discussion. And it's pretty neat to see. And, and these things are thought about and talked about. And I remember sitting down with Richie Giacchetti, and we were talking about mapping out some things and what he wanted to see, And I was all on board. I said, Richie, I think it's a great plan. We'll try that. We'll do that. And, unfortunately never came to fruition. But, we were both on the same page. And I think that doesn't happen as often as it should between a fighter, manager, trainer, and, try to get on the same page and map out a strategy and a plan of where you want to be for next year.
Another email. Well, it wasn't an email. This was actually a voicemail I got from my man Augie from Riverhead. Augie's been a long-time listener. He used to call in on the show, and he called me. And there's a lot of people that give me a call and we talk boxing. But Augie left me a voicemail. I didn't get a chance to call him back, but I told him I would talk about what he talked to me about on the voicemail. Augie called me and wanted me to give him my thoughts on Max Kellerman's new show on one of the ESPN networks. He said, and Augie thought that Max is not like me, meaning me. So he's not like you. He doesn't tell it like it is, but he thought that the show was good for the sport. What do I think? Well, I just want to start off by saying this. Number one, I don't like to promote any other show, only because, I feel that we are a professional show, and I like to look at them as competition. I don't consider, basically a lot of internet-type shows or somebody that just does something in front of the camera as competition to us. So, therefore, I don't like to promote other shows. But in Max Kellerman's case, I like Max. I like him personally. I've met him a few times. And the truth of the matter about Max is that he knows the sport. With that said, and no disrespect to Max Kellerman, Max has become a piece of clay. And I understand why. The man makes good money. He has become a broadcaster across multiple networks. He is known for boxing and then some. He does a regular sports show as well. So I totally understand why he's went out of his old-time persona of telling it like it is, because Max Kellerman used to tell it like it is, to being a more refined corporate tell it like it is. He's basically telling it like they want him to tell it like it is, and that's what you get with Max now. I don't like that version. It isn't the truth. It's the way he does it now. So I'm not going to knock him for it because he makes a living at it. But I do think that the more boxing we have available to us, boxing shows, boxing events, the better. I'm just concerned with misleading the young fan. I think that the young fan today is learning about a sport that I wish they learned the real thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you hit it on the hand. I mean, hey, we learned at a young age how the sport worked and how it evolves, and through good, honest, black and white commentary and our own personal research and stuff. And Max, I agree with you 100%. I like Max Kellerman. He's great. And yeah, when you're on that level and you're making the kind of money that he's making, you've got to gear in and pretty much do an outline with your networks are going to expect from you. And you could be looking for the story in every fight. That's the only thing I didn't like when he was looking for. The story of the fight. But again, he was doing that for network reasons, I'm sure. And Max is a great straight shooter on the surface, and he knows boxing, he knows fighting, he knows the ins and outs of it. And whether we hear it for face value or for what he needs to relate across the message across the table, he does a good job. I like Max. Boxing today, as we see it too, and you suggested earlier. Well, actually, Alex suggested earlier. We do see, like this past weekend, with all the boxing, all the fights on all the different networks, and the way it's going with all these streaming services, there could be a saturation of boxing ahead for us. And it's going to be a matter of what are we going to prioritize and what are we going to want to watch, follow, and call. And is it like the old In-Laws when the original In-Laws movie when they were trying to deface or devalue the dollar by saturating it with the mint? Is that going to happen with boxing? I don't think it'll happen because we all know as good fans and people in boxing, we know the big fights that we want to watch. So there may be a time we're going to have to prioritize and say, hey, look, let's look at the top 2 or top 3 or top 1 fight of the weekend. But, boxing has always evolved, taken 2 steps, maybe 3 steps back, maybe 3 steps forward, 1 step back. That ebb and flow. And so I think, we just have to wait it out and see which direction, this whole thing is going to move.
I got a couple of more emails I want to get through here. This one's from our man Mitch. He says, Jerrell Miller, $6.5 million. We're doing something wrong, Billy C. Definitely undeserved, but at least he'll make it worth it to the fans, to the lead up. The real main event will be all the BS he talks leading up to the fight. Also, this is making Sal's #1 pound for pound Wilder look even dumber as the clock ticks away on Al Heyman making a decision on that dummy's career. He better take the ESPN or DAZN deal. Tevin Farmer, who was in the middle of nowhere, took control of his own career. Same with Fury. Fury bought himself security. He did that. He did what Tevin Farmer and Daniel Jacobs did. He controlled his own destiny. So with or without Gervonta Davis, Tevin gets paid more than his value by aligning himself with DAZN. Great move by him. Jacobs did the same. He's realistically worth $750,000 for a fight by leaving Showtime and eventually signing with DAZN. He gets $15 million to fight Alvarez and another 8 in 2 fights, even if he loses. Miller, even more in no-win land, told PBC, as did Jacobs and Farmer and Fury, to go to you-know-where. They took control of their careers and the future. I swear, if Wilder botches this up, he's a fool. Triple G, Canelo, all did the same. The clown is Wilder. He's going to keep doing per-fight deals with Al Heyman and pseudo-promoter and whatever as the pseudo-promoter and stay in the $2 to $2.3 million to $3 million range while nobodies like Jerrell Miller make double that for beating nobody or losing big to an occasional somebody. Wilder 2 years from now. Let me call Al. Dials Al's number and gets a message. The number you have reached is no longer in service. Please check the number and try again. He's right, man. We've talked about this a lot. Deontay Wilder has seemingly made no sense of sticking with Al Heyman. He certainly is a millionaire today, but he has certainly left millions, double-digit millions of dollars on the table. And we've talked about this so much that even losing, if it's all about the money, as the name of this business suggests, and we call it prize fighting, then Deontay Wilder, and he's certainly not seeking out the best fighters, so, I mean, you could say, well, he's not being greedy. He only wants the big fights. He's not even doing that. So it does seem that he's making some pretty poor decisions. Mitch goes on to say, is this call for an emergency show? Do we have to wait? I'd like to get your take on it. Sal's probably in hiding by now, hibernating, because he thinks AJ seems to have frozen out of the picture. If Wilder falls apart, he will be the one frozen out. Fury seems to have made a smart move. My thoughts are simply that Top Rank and DAZN will work together, so I got to lean the other way right now. Maybe Wilder will be 100% frozen out. At worst, the missing link to force Heyman to work with ESPN or DAZN will be the future deals. The Bob Father has struck again.
Sure.
You know, he's got a point, Sal. And I agree 100% about the money. I think Wilder, and even you do, Wilder's biggest fan, think that he's made some mistakes. We go all the way back to the deal he left on the table against Anthony Joshua. But unlike myself, Mitch seems to think that ESPN and DAZN will work together. I don't think so. I think for a while they're going to stay far apart. I don't think we're going to see any of those three guys in the ring against each other anytime soon. I don't see it, Sal.
Well, we're hoping that you're wrong on this, because I think the fans are seeking that and are looking for that. No
doubt that no doubt that the fans, you and myself and everybody wants to fight. I'm just saying that they're going to keep us out of it. That's all.
Well, and I think you got a good solid basis to say that, and it's just a matter of these guys with their greed or their need, and we as fans, we want to see those fights come to fruition sooner than later, but for whatever reason, these guys want to taptoe and do the step aside game and not give us the best of what we want to see, or tease us for a while and let it to eventually materialize maybe 6 months to a year after it should have happened.
Finally, I got one more email. This is from my man Johnston. He says, hey, Billy C. and Sal. First, I'm sure you've already given your thoughts on the new deal Tyson Fury signed with ESPN and Top Rank. This will obviously add further complications to the negotiating table, which puts the rematch with Wilder in jeopardy, especially considering the fiery relationship between Arum and Al Heyman. Do you think Heyman will accept terms for the fight to be aired on ESPN, or could a deal for a cross-network coverage be struck? History suggests it's unlikely. I do believe the last to do it was Mayweather-Pacquiao, and before that, Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson. Both were finally delivered, but years too late. Let's just hope that all the big fights in the heavyweight division don't follow that blueprint, leaving us watching over-the-hill fighters cashing in at the end of their careers when they're well past their sell-by date. I'm going to read it all so we can get this in, and then we'll comment. And he says, secondly, by the time you read this email, we'll probably know the result between DeGale and Eubank Jr. I'm back in DeGale. You were wrong. So I'll move on. He says, Eubank Jr. may well have proved me wrong and produced a career best performance, which I think he may have. But the reason for my prediction was because Jr. has never had a full-time trainer during his 30 professional careers. He did this time. He says, also, I'm certain that Jr. will ignore Nate's advice during the fight at some point, which he didn't. So you were wrong, just like Johnston admitted in the chat room. So I'm not just beating him up. He beat me to the punch, my man Johnston. He says, can you and Sal please explain the importance of not only having a full-time trainer in camp, but listening to your corner's advice during a fight? He says, keep up the great work. He says, by the way, Billy C. on Jinko USA is great during the week for my weekly gaff. We appreciate it. Sal, first and foremost, I do believe that these fights will be prevented from seeing these fights because of greed. The importance of fights in long-term making the most money really is to make the most money and fight the least amount of times. That seems to be what Deontay Wilder is not doing. He's putting his own safety and career in jeopardy by taking lesser fights for less money, trying to build up value and demand for a fight that would give him a lot of money. I just think that if he would have signed a 3-fight deal that we've talked about many, many times before, financially he would be set and get to pick and choose whatever the hell he wants. My thought is that. And then finally, my thought on the trainer. Yes, I think every fighter needs a full-time trainer, and they have to have a relationship as such. So when a trainer tells a fighter something, the fighter has to listen. If you have a trainer and all you think he's doing is giving you water in between rounds, then you got the wrong trainer. What's your thoughts on both issues, Sal?
Well, you know my thoughts. I think a good trainer, solid trainer, a trainer you could trust. I mean, that's a trainer, a good trainer that you believe in, that you have confidence in. It's a reciprocal relationship, and you feed off each other, you understand each other, you're in sync, and a good trainer knows about his fighter, could push him, knows what he could do, and there's so much that a trainer could observe during the course of a fight that maybe the fighter who's involved in a fight, he may not see as easily opportunities being missed because he's he's up in a fight. And but a trainer could observe and see, hey, guess what? Every time you throw this, you're dropping that. He's countering. Or look at this and lead off with that, or do a feint over here and then bam, slam him with that counter. So it's so valuable. And like I said, with the trainer-fighter relationship is also you have a confidant. You have somebody you trust. You have somebody that you can share things with. And it's a unique relationship, it really is. And that's why when you see a good relationship, it does work to the fighter's benefit.
I couldn't agree with you more. Also, these fighters that change their trainer when a fight doesn't go well, it always reminds me of the old, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. When we get in the ring, we're going to do this. And then the fighter loses, and it's like, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. We, until you lose. Then it's he. But anyway, we had a busy show today. Don't forget, next week, I got a bunch of stuff that I want to start giving away. And basically, we're going to give it away to the highest bidder. So are we really giving it away? I guess we're selling it. But the truth of the matter is we want you to watch us live. So make sure you tune in. You can catch us on the Billy C Boxing Network or our YouTube channel. And we can, in the YouTube chat room, there's a spot where you can give a super chat. So I'll hold up the item that we're giving away. You give the biggest super chat, and poof, you'll be a winner. That starts next week, so make sure you tune in for that. We got some other great fights that we'll be talking about next week, so we'll have another busy show. So until then, I just want to leave you with this. Make sure you tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.